Howdy, this is Florian from LifeScienceMentor.com, and tonight we are talking about 102 items to be happy about. Now, that came quite as a shock when I read the topic in Become an Idea Machine about today's theme. It said, right now your idea muscle is pretty well developed, and you can thus come up with 100 items that you're happy about. It may have been more of a shock for those of us who used to write down 3 items they're happy about. Coming up with 100 is pretty much of a stretch. So when I started this whole happiness exercise, and that was better now. And that happiness exercise was more than a year ago. I wrote down 3 topics per day, or 3 items I was happy about per day. Then I switched it up to 5, and soon thereafter, I learned about Cam Adair in his Game Quitters Challenge, who had me write down 10 items to be grateful for every day. And that was not all too difficult. You come to a state where 10 items kind of easily go off. Like, my iPad, having coffee in the morning, my computer mouse, because it always works, I guess, right? Books, writing, is fairly easy, right? Although it still takes me 5 minutes, but still. 100 is more difficult. However, as I explained before, you can always categorize your exercise. So if you have trouble coming up with 10 items per day, you just define 5 different categories and then come up with 2 items for each category. And that's a bit easier than having like 10 categories in bulk. Now, a similar thing I do for this exercise today, where I go, I quickly write down 10 items and those become 10 categories. That's the second step. First step, write down 10 items. Second step, make these items into categories, or define these items as categories, regard them as categories. So for step 3 then, you would come up with 10 items per category, and then you have 10 by 10, 100, right? So, for example, one category today was getting up early, then another one having a tidy apartment, books, and so on and so forth, right? So I hope that's clear. So 10 categories and 10 items. Sometimes an item you're happy about, out of the first 10 you think about, is very specific, right? That I got a phone call from my best friend yesterday evening, right? So then that's not good for a category, phone call from my best friend, although you could, but it's more useful to make this into the category phone calls. And then you talk about the 10 different things you're grateful for lately that have to do with phone calls, right? So I've used my list of 10 categories I'm happy about and made 100 items to be thankful about out of it. And I'm just going to introduce this to you, and I hope I can inspire you to do something similar for your own life. Because the more ideas you write down, the happier you become, actually. That's my experience. And you're sure that no matter how dire the situation, you will always come up with some new ideas. Because I have invented ideas for something like aromatherapy or yoga, where I really knew very little about. And I could still do it. I mean, idea doesn't mean it needs to be the solution to everything, but an idea means just that. It's an idea, and you will get more inspired by that. And once you have written down an idea, you will come up with the real solution for it. Sometimes we just have to make the first step, come up with the idea, and then we come up with a solution. If you practice doing that for anything that comes to your mind, you will never run out of ideas. All right, so let's start. The first theme is getting up early, and I'm happy about that. I still got up before 7. I woke up in a great warm bed. I had mostly great dreams, and when they were nightmares, they were interesting. I was able to fall asleep, and usually I'm not suffering from insomnia. I was happy that I had a clean bedspread. I'm happy that I always make my bed in the morning, so that going to bed in the evening feels special. I'm happy for living in a non-noisy street, that my bed lately has not moved much. There's like little wheels underneath, so It theoretically moves about while I sleep. I'm happy about my Batman t-shirt that I'm sleeping in, and I'm happy that I have an alarm clock that can play CDs. See? 10 items for the first theme, getting up early. The second theme was having a tidy apartment. And rather than reading up all 10 items for each theme, I'll pick up a few, and you can read up the rest in the blog post accompanying this. And by the way, altogether, it took me an hour to come up with 100 ideas. Right, so that's about like 40 seconds per idea, and it works out pretty well. All right, so for the second theme, having a tidy apartment, I was happy that I'm actually having a large apartment so that it doesn't feel cramped. I'm happy that I have accumulated now so many notes to go through. Of course, to become a parent when I clean up, lots of notes everywhere. So it's interesting to go through these notes again, some of which I've written years ago, right? And I have to say, cleaning up itself is an easy way to make us happier. The third topic is books. And here, for example, I was happy about keeping some of my grandmother's books so I can honor her memory after she died. I am happy that I learned more about the author by reading their books, and that some fonts actually in the book are beautiful to behold. They're really nice to look at. Number fourth theme is my iPad. And I'm happy that I'm actually having a large book library on my iPad, and that I can easily download them via one click from Amazon. And I'm also happy about the sturdy glass screen on the front of that iPad. Number fifth theme is living in the US. So living in the US means I have my green card. I'm thankful for that. I am also happy that I can feel happy in Iowa City as well as in New York City. In fact, when I first came to the US, it was a week and later on an additional month for a collaborative project with another lab in Iowa City. And I told myself, coming from Germany, if you can make it, if you can be happy in Iowa City after 1 month, then you can live in the US, which is kind of interesting because you would always think that everyone says you can make it in New York, you can make it everywhere. But I would even say you can make it in Iowa City, you can make it everywhere. Because especially the Midwest, it has very down-to-earth, very, very American culture. And when you're in New York or in the West Coast, I imagine the same there. But if you're in New York, then it's so European still from its influence, and there's so many people that come from different countries just because it's at the coast, right? They're staying there, so it feels very multicultural. It feels like if you come from Europe, it's not that much different from being in Europe with all different countries there. But if you make it to the Midwest, to the middle of the country, and I guess also the South, then you get to see really the essence of American spirit. And I have to be careful here because I don't want to insult everyone, right? So the American spirit is everywhere, but it's especially prevalent in the Midwest and in the oops, there I just my mother came by and I just lost my train of thought. What I wanted to say is basically the American spirit is everywhere, not only on the coastal countries but also in the middle of the country, right? So it's important. It was important to me that I stayed a time in the coastal regions and a time in the middle of the country, so I could taste the whole American experience. And then I was really sure that I could be here in the US, get a green card, maybe later on become a US citizen. And number 3 from that is, that this country is basically a haven for people that want to start a new life. I still appreciate that a lot. I mean, because I'm one of these people, and so that's what I'm grateful for living in the US. Theme number 6, Christmas. Right? So I am happy about that Christmas instills a sense of everything becoming good, that the family comes together, and that the whole world slows down for a couple of days. Theme number 7 is my space heater. This apartment can become cold in winter, so it's good to have a space heater, especially that this machine reminds me of childhood. We had a space heater when I grew up, and it was one of the best things because it got the apartment warm. And finding a space heater here again was a big deal. It's not a big deal, but it is. It's great. It reminds me back. See how normal items of everyday life can become a landmark for going back in time, thinking about your childhood, right? And I'm also happy that I can easily become happy by warming up the house. Number 8 is actually happy about my mom, that she was coming visiting, that we can fly past the Atlantic Ocean just like that, and that Orville and Wilbur Wright, when they invented flying, did not give up trying, even though other competitors fell flat on their feet and lost their interest in doing that. They persevered, even though they had far less resources to do it, right? Number 9, friends. Let's just theme friends. I'm happy about having friends around. I'm also happy about some people are just naturally warm and welcoming. And I'm also happy that people are different and you get to observe life from different angles. Theme number 10 is actually this gratefulness exercise. Taking time to sit down and think about what's already going well in your life gives you a boost in spirit for the day, right? And so writing down 10 gratefulness items make you spiritually happy on the long run. And the last idea in the chapter, this gratefulness exercise, is actually that friends sometimes even suggest business idea for you. A good friend of mine just actually suggested an app based on this gratefulness exercise, where you can just check on what you were grateful for a year ago, and then you check later on again, and can hold yourself accountable for achieving your goals. And that's basically it. One day before Christmas, very exciting. I'm happy to have you there. Leave me a comment if you liked it. Click on like, subscribe to this channel. I'm always happy seeing you here. If you leave me a comment, I'll make sure I respond to it, either here or on the blog. And so far, one more time, we get awake, and then there's Christmas. And in that spirit, I wish you all the best. And see you again tomorrow. And happy to have you, and enjoy the rest of your week. See you again tomorrow, and goodbye.